Welcome back, everybody, here for another episode of Dolphins versus the World. And we got a big one today. And as always, we're joined by the man behind the camera, our producer, Joel. And my co-host is with me, Anthony. Anthony, how you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling good. I got sick like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still kind of coming over something, so my voice is a little feels weird. But got a big game coming up this weekend. I'm nervous.
All hands on deck.
No, I'm not.
You gotta get you feeling better and the rest of the team feeling better.
Yeah. So even though I'm not playing in the game, I'm nervous just because it's a big time opponent. But I'm excited to talk some Dolphins football.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll just get right into it because there is so many different angles and layers to this game, and we could go on forever. So we'll just we'll get started. I kind of want to do firstly. What do you want to do first? I'll ask you. You want to do our offense versus our defense, or defense versus offense?
Trying to think what we did. I was trying to pull up for this game the injury report, but we're recording right now. For those that don't know, it's Eastern time. It's 1:16.
Drop during recording. Hopefully.
Right. So it might drop during recording. So maybe we won't start right with that because I don't see it listed yet. I know Chris Brooks went on IR, which sucks, but I've heard they're in the market for a running back. But that's not really. We'll see what happens there. But Jeff Wilson is coming back, so he should be good. Okay. I guess we could start. Since we're the away team, maybe we'll start with our offense. Why not?
Yeah, that's fine with me. And either way you look at this game, I think it's hard not to talk about injuries just right off the bat. Because the biggest key to me in this game, when you're looking at it from our offense versus their defense right off the start, is how can you stop them from getting quick pressure? I don't have the exact numbers here, but I think anyone with the naked eye can tell that part of the reason Tua has struggled, not only just this year against the Bills, but in his career, is when pressure gets to him quickly. He's so good at getting the ball out fast that if you could get to him in that split second, then he has to start thinking a lot more and kind of try to ad lib, and it's just a bit of a struggle. But the Dolphins have been fantastic on the O-line this season. There's a lot of questions about it, though, especially to me. They faced the second easiest schedule of defenses this season. Now, I'm not saying this Dolphins offense isn't one of the best ever. I think when it's all said and done in the year, if healthy, it may go down as the best ever, truth be told, still. But this is a major step up in class, even with the injuries that the Eagles have in the secondary and on the D-line. It does look like Jalen Carter will be playing, and I think me and you both and anyone that's the matchup I'm most worried about on both sides of the football. Jalen Carter versus looking like Liam Eichenberg. We'll see today on the injury report. Connor Williams did practice yesterday, but from what I saw, it was listed as limited, but it was even more limited than that. It basically seemed like he was just getting some work on the sides that, it doesn't indicate that he's going to be playing. But yeah, what do you think? Just kind of what are your quick big picture thoughts about offense versus their defense?
Well, I think that this game, similar to the game in Buffalo, you have to win at the trenches. And that's why, I am skeptical about this game because the Eagles have the best offensive and defensive line in the NFL. And I think there's a wide margin, quite honestly. And I look at our offensive line and, Liam Eichenberg certainly played better last week, but putting him out there, the bigger thing with me to this game is I'm hoping just like we can keep Tua healthy, because these are the type of games where, we're so focused on, win, doing all this stuff, but we forget that the key to this season is keeping Tua upright and healthy. And, I don't know how impactful Jalen's going to be with the injury that he had and how much of an impact he will be because of it. But I could tell you that coming out of the draft, he was the best player in the draft, in my opinion, by far. Obviously slid down for reasons that we know. But he already, to me, is a top 5, top 6 defensive tackle in the NFL. I mean, he's just ridiculously good. He's Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh type of level at this point in his career. So, we'll see. I think that, like I've talked about last episode, the Dolphins have so much speed on offense to where I'm not trying to equate the Eagles to the Patriots, but the Patriots are very physical. They don't have a lot of speed on their D-line. That's how the Eagles are, in my opinion. And the Bills, that's why they matched up so well, in my opinion, was because not only did they have the length and the speed, but they also had the power. So they had a little bit of everything. The Eagles, to me, I think that overall, like, if you are able to succeed with some of these quick screen passes, some of these little handoffs, maybe Ahmed, since A-Chain's not in there, if you're able to do things like that and not just allow the front four to rush at Tua, you could have success. Now, defensively, the Eagles are running a very similar style to the Dolphins. I mean, Sean Desai, who's their defensive coordinator, is like the Vic Fangio disciple. So there is something to be said about last time we went up against this style of defense, which was the Chargers, and we saw what happened there. And I think overall, talent-wise, the Chargers' defensive line isn't as good as the Eagles, but overall, they have pretty much similar talent. And we were able to have our way there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think the key for this offense, and not to foreshadow into my 3 keys of victory before I pass it back to you, is, I think both you and I are equating this game similar to the Bills game, right? Where it's a big game, very impressive team. Let's see how you're supposed to beat the bad teams. I don't ever take that away from teams. But if you can't ever beat good teams and all you beat is bad teams, that says something. So I don't take it against them at all that they've beaten bad teams. But now let's see if you can hold your own against the Eagles. Not win necessarily, but hold your own and not get embarrassed. But I think the key for this offense, when we played the Bills, 3 turnovers, 2 of which led to 14 points total, 2 touchdowns. And on top of that, you need to be able to convert in the red zone. We can't be going to the red zone and scoring 3 points every single time. And I'll talk a little bit about that on the other side of the ball too. But, the main things is convert in the red zone. Luckily, we're going against one of the lower half of the NFL red zone defenses in the Eagles, surprisingly enough. And the Dolphins are, I think, at this point, the best red zone offense in the NFL. So that's the matchup to me. Take care of the ball as always. I'm sure we'll both talk about that on both sides of the ball. But really, for the offense, I think they'll have their way at times with the Eagles defense. I don't think they're the Bills or anything like that, or the 49ers or the Browns. So when you get in the red zone, get those 7 points, because when we talk about the flip side, it's going to be a little harder to stop this Eagles offense.
Yeah. I think just kind of big picture, like the way their Dolphins are going to win this game is if Mike McDaniel calls. He's always calling a great game, but he's going to have to call a fantastic game. He's going to have to out scheme sort of the Eagles here. I kind of think that's just my opinion. How he does that, I don't know. There's a lot of ways to attack it here. There's more than one way to get it done here, especially with their injuries in the secondary. With Blankenship and Bradbury, I believe Blankenship's not going to play. I don't know about Bradbury. Again, it's just something to keep watching with the injury report. Like today reveals a lot more. Like Wednesday, it's hard to tell. Thursday and Friday injury reports though are telling. So something to keep an eye out for. Same thing. It's just like a big step up in class. I think truthfully for both teams on both sides of the ball, for our offense and their defense. Last week they played the Jets. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say the Jets have an elite offense. But I kind of just want to put into perspective real quick how much better the Dolphins offense is than the Eagles, who have the second best offense in the NFL. So there's this model. It's called earn drive points. Basically, it's how repeatable your offense is in scoring points. Meaning like if you run the ball for 4 yards every play, your offense is obviously sustainable. You're going to get touchdowns all the time. So the Dolphins offense is 0.6 points per drive better than the Eagles offense, who has the second best. You add that up, 11 drives a game. Basically, they're about a touchdown better than the Eagles offense in a game, which that's pretty significant. So if they could keep up that pace, it's going to be good. But can they? Because I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say the Giants, Panthers, Broncos defenses are all world or anything like that. The Eagles is definitely a lot better, and both teams are really banged up, but it's still just a test. And we'll switch here. We'll pivot sides of the ball unless you got anything else here. But yeah, I mean, just another last thing about the offense is this place is going to be really, really tough to play in. Their fans are crazy. No other way to put it. We were talking about it before the show, but yeah, this is like one of the last true home field advantages left in the NFL. Just because as time has gone on, there's, it's so easy to travel and everything, and the accommodations are so nice, but those fans are so loud. And the Dolphins did struggle in Buffalo. With getting plays off on time and everything. So something to watch for. The crowd's going to be just bananas. It's going to be awesome. But the Dolphins offense has to stay composed, and hopefully they don't have to burn any unnecessary timeouts or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think the bigger thing with Liam Eichenberg in this one is going to be getting the call, right? Getting his guys at the line of scrimmage, because the center is in charge of telling everyone what they're supposed to do at the offense at the line of scrimmage for the O-line. So, obviously against the Bills, that was his first game playing at center. So, not the greatest. Let's just say that. So hopefully I'm trying to think, how many games has he played now at center? He re-aggravated against the Giants, Connor Williams. So this is going to be his third game.
The Broncos.
But full game, this will be his third game if he's playing, and I assume he is. So hopefully the communication's better. It has to be. I think hopefully they learned a lesson there from the Bills game. But yeah, I mean, Philadelphia Eagles fans, geez. Not all of them. Again, I don't like to deal in absolutes like that. But I mean, Philadelphia Eagles fans are, I live 45 minutes.
I live
45 minutes away.
They love it.
Yeah, I lived 45 minutes away from Philadelphia. I grew up there for the first part of my life. And yeah, my parents just still don't want me to ever go to games there. So they're pretty bad there. So it's going to be a really tough environment to play in. But again, this is, these are the type of games that, you don't have to win, but you have to go in there and you have to play a good game, because, we're seeing it right now. Like, the Dolphins have no respect in the national media, and I'm not sure why. I understand that, yes, we've beaten the Broncos, but here's my thing. Then we'll get into the defense. I understand you beat bad teams, but does no one care about the fashion in which you beat them?
Okay. If it was the Patriots doing it, they'd be. It just there's not an inherent bias, but I think it's just an easy place to pick on Miami sports as a whole, because there's not typically the major media markets are New York, Dallas, Boston, and then there's a couple others, but you'll never see them even when the Knicks are, just for example, but the Jets and the Giants are the worst teams ever. You don't see them saying is Brian Dable purposely tanking? When the Dolphins were, this is the worst team ever, they're endangering the players. It's just ridiculous. Honestly, to just be quite frank, I just think it's just an easy stone to throw, and they all decide to do it.
But here's the thing, though. Okay, so let's talk about who we beat. We beat the Chargers. Okay, no team this year has scored more than 27 points against the Chargers. We scored 36. Okay, we go in next week, we play the Patriots. Okay, the Patriots, I'll give you that and that's a division game, so that's why the score is a little different. They're familiar, but okay. You play excuse me, sorry. You play the Broncos. How many teams have scored 70 points against the Broncos? How many teams have scored 40 points against the Broncos? None. So I understand their defense is bad, but last time I checked, the Chiefs just played them and couldn't even score 20 points. You played the Panthers. No team this year has scored 42 points on the Panthers. The closest was the Lions, and they scored 41. So I understand you're beating bad teams, but it's not like everyone's beating these teams by 40, 50 points.
A good example, honestly, here is the Eagles last year. They didn't play anyone, but everyone was like, they're the best. This is unbelievable. But it just,
Right.
I don't know how it goes. But yeah, like when the Eagles were beating up on the lowly Commanders and all the other terrible NFC teams, no one cared.
Yeah. Now again, yards per game, or points per game, the Eagles are giving up 21 points per game. Dolphins are scoring, I think, something like 37. So again, I look at this Eagles defense, and I the main thing with the Eagles defense is their run defense is hella good. Like really, their whole entire defense is good. But if there is a way to be had with the Philadelphia Eagles, it's in the pass game. They're like middle of the pack in the pass game. We've faced way tougher pass defenses against the Bills, against even the Patriots at the time, against the Giants even, and then the Panthers last week were the 5th. So like there's ways to have success, a lot of success for the offense. The main thing is, again, if you're going into the Bills game and they're able to get pressure on Tua with 4, I don't care what defense you're playing. If you're able to get pressure with 4, you're screwed because then they could drop 7 in coverage. And what are you going to do at that point? Right. So it's going to be important for this offensive line to play better than they did against Buffalo. But certainly I don't look at this matchup. I don't know about you. I don't look at this matchup and I'm not nervous necessarily about the offense. I don't know about you. I'm like, okay, let's see what the offensive line does, keep Tua healthy. But I think that as long as we're not getting blown off the field, like we were able to score 20 against the Bills, and it was like early on. Then they were like, oh, wait, we can rush with 4 and drop 7 in coverage. We're not going to blitz anymore. And then they shut everything down. So, I think this offense will be okay. Just right now, as we switch over to the defense side of the ball, that's where this is important for me as a fan to see what our defense can do against this offense.
Yeah, I think I'd be pretty surprised if the Dolphins offense was held to less than 24 points. Last thing offensively, and then we'll talk defense here. Do you think there'll be any involvement with Chase Claypool this week?
I think the key to this game is going to be to set the tone physically and set the physicality high. It just depends on how much of the playbook he's actually able to grasp. I was a little surprised he didn't play against the Panthers, even if it was like garbage time stuff, because this playbook is hard to grasp. And even though we got him, like it's going to take him, I wouldn't be surprised. He's not going to have like a good, decent grasp of the playbook to be a featured role in this offense until after the bye week. So like right now, maybe. So, right now, would I like to see him in there maybe to have some physicality and a red zone, target for Tua that's bigger, stronger, sure. But I don't know how much we're going to see him. And quite honestly, until really after the bye week, I'm not going to count on him to do anything major. Not because I don't think he can. It's just it's a hard playbook to learn. And why put someone out there that doesn't know it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And so we'll switch here to the defensive side for the Dolphins and the offensive side for the Eagles. I think sort of the big story this year for the Eagles offense has kind of been, I don't want to say regression, but Jalen Hurts hasn't looked like himself. I think that's kind of the overall big picture talking point in the national media. And why is that? You could attribute it to a couple of things. Personally, if I had to put my finger on it, I think it just Shane Steichen was doing a way better job than a lot of people gave him credit for. And new offense coordinator Brian Johnson is not, I don't know if not ready is the word or whatever, but he's clearly a big drop off. Sort of similar to what we saw last year with Josh Boyer stepping in for Brian Flores here. You can notice a difference. And I think that's sort of what the Eagles' offensive woes have been. And I don't want to use get right spot for the Eagles' offense, but this is a tough matchup for the Dolphins defense with injuries and everything. Just the style of play. Here's a couple quick stats, and then I'll switch it over to you to get your thoughts. But the Dolphins have allowed 90% of the short passes attempted to be completed. That's not great. And you could if Jalen Hurts wants to get in rhythm early, he's going to have no problem doing that because their tight ends are going to be able to get open. A.J. Brown is going to have no problem getting open. And Devonta Smith, some hamstring question marks, but I think he's going to be able to play. How effective he's going to be, I don't know. But, it looks like at the moment, Mir, you could get open on Eli Apple. So I don't think Devonta Smith's going to have a hard time. Also, the Dolphins defense, they are playing with light boxes. So meaning they're not stacking the box, not putting an extra guy in there to stop the run at the top 5 rate in the NFL. And you can't do that against the Eagles. With their O-line, how just dominant they are and physical, and how good DeAndre Swift has been so far, and with Jalen Hurts as a threat as a runner, you can't do that. And the reason we have been doing that is to help our corners because they've just been so bad, to be just quite frank. And then you're going to have to rely on them this game. And it's just, when you look at it that way, to me, it's such a tough matchup that I don't know how you can not solve it, but like what you can do to stop this from happening, because you have to put extra people in the box. If you don't put extra people in the box, they're going to be able to run all over us. And then the game's not even going to matter unless we can somehow score 40 points or more and get a lucky turnover. If we don't sack the box, we're screwed point blank. And then if we do, then you have to rely on Eli Apple or a hobbled Xavier Howard. If Xavier Howard even goes, I think he's going to go personally, but how effective is he going to be? And he's already been poor, and now he's going to be worse. I just think this is a really tough matchup. I'd be curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I've been surprised with a lot of teams. If it were me and I went into a game, I would just run the football on the Dolphins because, the Eagles right now are the number 1 rushing offensive or number 2. They're up there. They're like 150 yards rushing a game. Well, they're not number 1. That's us. But they're up there. I think they're number 2. And, I just think that with that, it sets up the play action. They have such a good offensive line. If I'm the Eagles, I'm going into this game saying I'm going to run the hell out of the football. I'm going to set up the play action. And I don't know if Xavier Howard's going to play. I would say it's a 50-50 there. If he doesn't, asking Cam Smith or whoever you want to put out there and Eli Apple to cover A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith is just, again, I'm applying common sense here, where if it was vice versa, I'd be like, hello. So the only way I really see us being able to stop the Eagles defense is if, we get some turnovers, put some pressure on Jalen Hurts, or like I said at the very beginning, stopping them in the red zone. Because like the Dolphins, for instance, in the red zone right now are the number 1 team. Overall, we're at 80% conversion of touchdowns, which is so it's almost 81. That's ridiculously high.
Sorry to cut you off, but what's interesting about that is red zone offense is like down as a whole this year in the NFL. That's like why the product has been poor.
Well, the next, like if you look at like the next closest one, it's 5% lower, and it's the Buffalo Bills. So away, actually,
5 to 6 against us.
Right at home, we're 93% in the red zone, which is just ridiculous. Away, we are 67%, and that's actually the exact same as the Eagles. They are 67% at home, but overall, if you look at their overall team, they're 45% in the red zone. So Are you going to get the 67? Are you going to get the 45? Who knows? Vic Fangio's defense is supposed to be a bend don't break defense. It's supposed to be a defense that, will give up a slant every play if you want. But once you get to the red zone, you're going to kick field goals. That's been the case, honestly, in most of our games, except the Chargers game and the Bills game. So I'd be curious to see what he's cooking up. I just really don't see, our linebackers. I can't stand Jerome Baker against this offensive line is just a nightmare to me. The only way that we are going to be able to have a good defensive performance is if Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips are playing lights out. And if Christian Wilkins, I can promise you this is the game that Chris Greer and them, these are the games that they're going to use in the contract negotiations. If he comes out there and he's a no-show, I'm not paying you anything close to $20 million, right? I wouldn't do it anyway, based off what I've seen this year. But offensively, I just don't think it's a good matchup. I think they're too good on the offensive line to dominate us. And then weapons wise, they could easily just throw the ball all over us. And especially if Xavier Howard doesn't play, I don't know how you're supposed to stop A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith with the guys we have now. So, we'll see what happens. But
yeah. So I actually kind of want to not sort of play devil's advocate here for a moment. But let me ask you this. I think the way that the Dolphins have success here defensively is, like I kind of started off here with, if they just struggle scheme-wise and Brian Johnson just can't do it, because they haven't been good at all really offensively. Their only good offensive performance was against the Vikings, I would say, personally. But with the injuries, like I could see you make a case that the Dolphins defense can have success if Lane Johnson doesn't go. What do you think he's going to play? I think he is. I think he's going to play.
Yeah, I think he's going to play.
Yeah. But like you said, we just need to get pressure, because Jalen Hurts, part of the reason he's been so effective is just the Eagles O-line is that good. Like, he has 100% confidence that he's not going to be hit at almost any play. So I think if you could get some pressure in there, like we said, maybe you got to move Ngiko back to to edge for this game. If he's been the best player, you got to let your best players play their best positions.
Right. I'm looking right now at the teams they faced. I'm trying to see where the Viking. Every team they faced, aside from the Buccaneers, they scored 25 against. But every team they faced roughly has about a similar defense to the Dolphins as far as rank. I look at the Commanders, for instance. The Commanders are the third worst scoring defense in the NFL right now in points per game, I think, if I'm seeing that correctly. Yeah, they're the third worst. The Dolphins
Eagles offense for defenses.
So the Dolphins offense or defense right now is giving up 22-ish points a game. It says 26 on there, but again, we've had points scored on us that weren't the defense's fault. So we're about 22.5 points per game. I'm trying to think of a team that they've faced that's comparative. The Rams are giving up about 20. That's a close style scheme and stuff like that, and they scored 23 against them. So, we'll see. I just think, again, I look at these other teams and, yeah, they might not have as much talent, but there's just something missing with the Dolphins defense right now. I don't know if it's just they're not adjusted. And I just think in games like this where you have a dominant offensive line and a dominant run game, your linebackers have to show up. And I don't have confidence in our linebackers, but the Eagles certainly have not been what they were last year so far. So, like I said, if you're going to beat the Eagles, it's right now. They have some injuries. It's kind of like the Dolphins. If you're going to beat them, you got to beat them now, because we're only going to get better. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see what happens. I really don't have that much faith in this Dolphins defense, because all I've seen of them when they've gone against good offenses is 34 points against the Chargers and now 48 points against the Bills. So until proven otherwise, it's hard for me to imagine we go in there and have a lot of success against them, unless we have a lot of turnovers and they have a lot of fumbles or something like that.
Yeah. Do you think there'll be any answer for the tush push brotherly shove? I don't think so. I think that's gonna for at least from the Dolphins, I don't think we have an answer.
No, yeah, I don't. I mean, there's not really an answer to it because you just have to have stronger guys. And it doesn't succeed all the time. But, the easiest way to stop that is to limit those short yardage situations. So, again, they're not going to run a tush push on 3rd and 8, right? So you have to win early. You have to win on 1st and 2nd down. You can't be allowing 4 yards on 1st down. And then all of a sudden you're in 2nd and 6. They're able to run a quick pass, quick slant, because we'll give up slants all day long. And now it's 3rd and 1, and then they just run a tush push. So, you got to be smart there. I would be shocked if they didn't try to put pressure on Jalen Hurts because, again, I would assume they're going to try to run the football on us. And quite honestly, the Eagles' offense is like very, very vanilla and simple. And typically when we've gone against offenses that are very vanilla and simple, we've had success. So again, I don't really know what to. I could see them only scoring 24 points. I could see them scoring 38 points. I truly don't know what's going to happen here. I'll be curious, and I know for sure a lot of people are going to look at this game as let's see what you got, right? So
that's what I was about. This is a big time narrative game. I mean, if you just look back to 2 weeks ago now when it was Cowboys versus the 49ers, and everyone was like, this has been the best matchup in the NFL to this point. We got 2 legit teams here. And then you walked away from it and everyone's like, well, the Niners are Super Bowl favorites and the Cowboys are who cares? They might be a wild card team. They don't look like anything. That would really, really sting to walk away from this. And it sort of be like if this game was like the Bills game, a lot of people would be saying that like, oh, the Dolphins can't play in prime time, Tua can't play in cold, blah, blah, blah. You could come up with 1,000 narratives from it. I don't think it would be the end all be all. I think then, like we were kind of talking about before the show, the much, much bigger game for this team is the Chiefs game in Germany in 2 weeks. I think that's the game that if you're the Dolphins, you have circled for the time being. Like that's the biggest game. If you're a Dolphins in the organization or a fan, and you think this team has a legitimate shot at doing anything this year, having the 1 seed would be very beneficial. I think almost in the AFC this year, being the 1 seed is such an advantage in the AFC just because there's so many good teams and good quarterbacks that you have to get through on wild card weekend. So if you think you have any chance at doing anything this year with Super Bowl or going to one, that Chiefs game is just so much bigger than this game. But by the same thing, like the Eagles are a Super Bowl contender until proven otherwise. And you have to go into these games and just show that you belong. Because if you don't, then, you're just going to be the team that can beat up on the bad teams. Much like plenty of teams before you, and no one really cares about those teams.
Right. And like you just said, and we both feel this way, it's not like obviously, you want to win because if you win, I mean, if the Dolphins were able to win this game and we go into our bye week, let's just say we lose to the Chiefs in a closer game. Honestly, the Chiefs offense hasn't been that great. And I think we'll have success against their defense. So that could be a very interesting game. But if you're able to go into your bye week, like what's our record right now? 5-1. If you're able to go into the bye week 7-2, I mean, the rest of your schedule, it's like you have 3 hard games at the end of your schedule. You have the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills in a row. Those are your 3 hardest games. So if you're able to only lose one of these next 3 games, that's huge. Certainly, if the Dolphins are able to beat the Eagles on Sunday night, then I'm going to come on here and I will say that it's the Dolphins conference. It is I don't like, I'm not saying that, it's a must win, But certainly if you're able to beat the Super Bowl NFC champions from last year, or the NFC champions that went to the Super Bowl from last year, then at this health that we're at, where we're not 100%. But again, I just we'll see what happens. I just think overall keep Tua healthy and just make it close, whatever it is. Make it close, be competitive, give them a good game. Hopefully they do. I think that you look at the Bills game last time, again, we had 3 turnovers, 2 of which led to touchdowns. We lost 48-20. Last time I checked, that's a 14-point swing. Now it's 34-34. It's a tie game. I looked at, Liam Eichenberg's first game in there. You came off a 70-point victory, so you're feeling yourself. I don't think they're feeling themselves right now. I think they are, especially with the injuries, they are motivated and they are focused. And anytime you play a team that went to the Super Bowl, you're always going to give them your best. So I think you should get a different Dolphins team from last time. We'll get into our keys of victory. I'll put it up here. Yeah, overall, I think you'll see a different Dolphins team this time. I don't know if that equates to a win, but I think you'll see a better Dolphins team.
Yeah, and I'll start with my keys here, but definitely I agree with you. I think this can be 2 teams' best effort. I don't know if you saw, but there was kind of news that the Eagles had like a players only meeting and we're pretty disappointed with just how things have been going and with the effort from that game. So I think they're going to come out here against a team that has kind of taken the league by storm offensively, and they're going to put out a great effort here. And effort is all about the line of scrimmage. The trenches are where football is won and lost. That's not a sexy answer or anything, but it is the truth. It all starts there. And when you're going against an O-line that has been as dominant as the Eagles, if you allow them to get some confidence and just destroy us up and down the field here, it's going to be tough, man. If they could run the ball at will, I don't think you have a chance. So, and a lot of my keys here are sort of like not stopping. They're sort of just minimizing, because I don't think you can fully take advantage of, or you can't fully stop like how good the Eagles O-line is. Like, you just have to hope that you can hold your own and hang around long enough where your offense can lift you, propel you to victory here. But if their offensive line and defensive line, for that matter, I know that, like we were saying, the Dolphins' offensive line has been great so far by every metric, but this is a major, major step up in class from the last 2 weeks and sort of the season. And Tua's been helping this. The scheme has been helping this. So, but we'll see, man. I think that's just the 2 biggest things here is our defensive line versus their offensive line, and then vice versa. Can you hold your own? Because these are the best of the best on probably arguably both sides of the ball. I think offensive line is definitively the best. The defensive line, you can make an argument. I'd probably put the Browns, but the Eagles are definitely top 5. So if you could hold your own against these, that's an encouraging sign for the future. And if you can't, then there could be some problems.
Yeah, I love for this game. When I wrote down mine, I love that we had different ones, because quite honestly, I agree 100% with all of yours. And, if anything, we were able to get 6 keys to victory because there's so many for this game. But yeah, I mean, 100%. I look at the Bills game and I go, the 2 biggest reasons why you lost that game were turnovers and getting dominated at the line of scrimmage. And obviously those are big reasons, but really turnovers were huge in that. But that leads me to my next point. And I think our first 2 points, yours and mine, are things we saw against the Bills that have to be changed. You cannot, when you're playing an offense or a team this good, this dominant in their stadium, where turnovers are going to lead to changes of momentum, you cannot be fumbling the ball and throwing interceptions. You cannot. Now, Tua has been pretty good with the ball this year. I know he threw the 2 interceptions against the Giants. And then he had, I think, one against the Patriots and one against the Chargers. But overall, he's been good with the ball. Last week he handled it really well. You know, against the Broncos, he did. So, overall, he's been good with the ball. I just think that this is a game where you tell people, hold on to that football when you're running. Do not give the Eagles any extra momentum or any extra fuel. So that's huge. And then I'll go into my second one real quick, and then I'll hand it over to you. Red zone offense and defense in these games is huge. You turn 2 touchdowns into 2 field goals on offense, and that's bad. You stop the Eagles from scoring 2 touchdowns and they get 2 field goals instead with the type of offense we have. That's huge. So that to me is really going to be where this game comes down to. I think, quite honestly, at the end of the day, we'll look back at it. And if it's a closer game, like we're going to predict it to be, you and I, we're going to look back at it. And if the Dolphins won it, we're going to say it's because we were able to stop those guys in key moments. Or if we lost the game, it's going to be because we either didn't convert in the red zone enough or they converted too often. So that's going to be huge with this game. Because again, with a defense and an offense that's that talented and that dominant, man, those stopping really any team in the red zone is huge. But especially in games like this, they stack up. Stopping a team, that's four less points they get per drive. That to me is a huge part of this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then my second one here is creating explosive plays, which the Dolphins have been fantastic at this season. Just getting the ball into Tyreek Hill's hands and Jalen Waddle. It's going to create positive outcomes for the Dolphins. Same with getting the ball to Raheem. These guys are just so explosive, and that's been the success for the Dolphins offense this year. And against a banged up Eagles secondary, I think that's the way to success. And then on the flip side, limiting their explosiveness. When we played the Bills, it just looked like in the first few drives, it was a total track meet. Like they were throwing the ball at will all over the place, and then we were moving the ball at will. And then like you said, with the turnovers, like it just completely changed the game. Like one thing will kill that. So I think if you could limit the explosive plays for them, that's just going to be massive. If you could stop them from DeAndre Swift from breaking off a 30-yard run, and then you trade scores quickly back and forth, that's how this game could turn into similar to the Bills game where it got out of hand for the Dolphins, because then just one mistake will kill you. And that the mistake could happen to the Eagles, and then we could, blow them out. But I think it's just a lot more likely on the road when you're on the road and there's, things could start spiraling out of control. It always seems to just happen on the road. So basically keep doing what you're doing offensively, keep the explosive plays going. And then, just try to stop their playmakers from making some big time plays here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tall task with Devontae and AJ Brown, especially with the guys we got. But I think a way to do that leading into my third point is put pressure on Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is great. But you cannot, with this offensive line, you're not going to be able to apply pressure with 4. I'm sorry. You're not. No disrespect to Bradley Chubb or Jalen Phillips or Christian Wilkins. If the Dolphins are able to get pressure with 4, I will be bawling my eyes out with tears of joy, because this is the best offensive line arguably in the last 20, 30 years. Okay, so, you're going to have to somehow get pressure on him. You can't just allow him to sit back there. They've been implementing cornerback blitzes lately. I think that's a way to do it. But even if it's not sacking him, you just got to make him feel uncomfortable. You can't let him sit back there and do whatever he wants. Again, Vic Fangio is going to have to show a masterclass this game. This is not a game where you just go out there and play conservative defense, because you will get gashed. With an offense like this, you have to be creative. You have to take chances. You have to do stuff outside the norm. And if they're not able to, then it's going to be a long day. So overall, you got to get pressure on Jalen Hurts, because, I look at the Jets game and the Jets were able to get after him, limit those explosive plays that you're talking about. They were able to do it before. I don't see us being able to do that, but certainly regardless, I look at a big reason why they won is because they made him uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, and they definitely have to blitz. I 100% agree with you. I hope the Dolphins are smart enough to do that too, which I do think they are. Lastly, here, my last key is going to be to just contain AJ Brown. I don't think you can stop him. I'm not asking for a effort what the Patriots did against Tyreek Hill, how they not completely neutralized him, but they kept him under wraps pretty well. But I mean, if you just look at the stats game to game for AJ Brown, 131 yards last week, 127, 175, 131 versus the Bucks, 29 against the Vikings, but that game was a complete domination, and I think he was hurt as well. And then 79 versus the Patriots. I mean, if he's matched up against Eli Apple or Cater, who got dominated by Diggs, Diggs had 120 yards for 6 catches against us. And then last week, Adam Thielen, 115 yards. 33-year-old Adam Thielen had 11 catches for 115 yards. My God, what is AJ Brown going to do to us? That is my biggest concern for this game, is that I'm just worried that AJ Brown could go for like 200 something yards here if they want to, because I just do not see how you can stop him. So you got to contain him, whether that's doubling him, getting Javon, with him, getting physical. I don't know how you do it, but you have to find a way to stop him. That they don't pay me to figure out how to stop him. I'm just here to tell you what you have to do. And it is certainly going to be to stop him. That's step one in my mind. If you can find out a way to limit him, then you can lead to some success here, because then everything from there becomes a lot easier, between stopping the run, stopping stuff over the middle of the field, getting pressure. All that is easier if AJ Brown is under wraps here. And we'll get that into our score here. Similar scores. I'll just say, I do think Philly is going to win this game. I think this is just a mismatch. If both teams were fully healthy, this would be a different story. But I really, really think Connor Williams' value is just tremendously understated here. And that's not just Connor Williams. That's just the delta, the drop off between him and Liam Eichenberg, I think, is night and day. While we did talk about it, that Liam played a great game last week, this is an entirely different story this week, going against Jalen Carter. He's going to have everything he can handle and then some. And if he rises to the occasion, I would change my tune on him. I'll be quite honest with you. I just do not see it happening here. I think this is going to be a frustrating game for Dolphins fans. This is not added in the score, but I think it'll be 30-20, and then we kind of get a late touchdown here and a failed onside kick with a couple minutes left. I just think this is just a mismatch. I think this is one of the tougher teams to play stylistically for the Dolphins. I think they could still win, obviously, but it's going to take a Herculean effort from Mike McDaniel to do this, because I just there's a lot of mismatches on every side of the ball that we've touched on all episode here.
Yeah, I think we don't tell each other our score predictions until, I'll ask for a score prediction to put it in the graphic. So again, we think similarly. I view mine more as not necessarily like we get a garbage time touchdown or anything. I view it more so similar to the Bills. I don't think we'll give up 48 points to the Bill like we did against the Bills. I don't see that. I hope not. And again, to be honest with you, even though I wouldn't be happy we lost, if it was like 31-28, I'd be like, that's a good game, right? But the way I see it is just ultimately, I don't have trust in the Dolphins defense against this Eagles offense. And I think that it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Dolphins offense to score touchdowns every drive, kind of like against the Bills. And I just don't see in Philadelphia against a good defense, you're out Connor Williams. Who knows with the running game, because now Chris Brooks is injured too, and you're getting thin there. I'm just unsure of what it's going to look like. We've never really faced a team like this, honestly, in the last 2 years. Philly's just a different beast, aside from maybe San Francisco. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, overall, I just think that it's going to be a little too much for the offense to have to carry this team week in and week out. And with all the mismatches on defense, I just think it's too much to overcome. So I'm picking a close game. Again, I don't think it'll be a blowout. But overall, I'm picking the Eagles to win this one at home, 31-28.
And this is all this being said, everything. This is going to be a really, really exciting game. There's a reason this is Sunday night. Enjoy it, because there have been a lot of years where the Dolphins were the Houston Texans, where it's 1 o'clock, 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 every week. So it's awesome just to be on prime time. Sunday night football is the biggest game in the NFL now. It's no longer Monday night games. The Sunday night games are the marquee matchup. And this is, by all accounts, one. It's not really like an elimination game per se, like the Cowboys 49ers one. But, man, this is just going to be a fun game. Two different styles going against each other. And we'll see what wins. And, yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to look, but I didn't see any injury report news for either team here. But I think that's just the biggest thing to monitor, honestly. I think if you get some positive news for the Dolphins and then some negative news for the Eagles, I could completely change my tune on this game. But I think with the fact that it looks like Lane Johnson's going to go and Connor Williams may not go.
That's from yesterday, so it's not an updated one, but just so people can see. Again, Lane Johnson practiced. He said that he's going to play. Reed Blankenship and Bradley Roby.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be.
Right.
So, yeah, really the only person I know, Connor Williams on there is limited, but I don't think he'll play. Really, for me, Xavier Howard's a big one to watch. If he's able to play, I think it's 50-50 right now. If he's not able to play, I mean, yikes. But yeah, right there, Reed Blankenship and Bradley Roby did not practice. Darius Slay apparently practiced in full, but he's dealing with injuries, and that's not necessarily, the Dolphins aren't the team you want to go against as a 32, 33-year-old with a nagging injury. So we'll see. Definitely a lot to monitor today with that injury report, though.
Yeah. But I will be glued to the couch watching this game, and I'll tell you Sunday when it's 1 o'clock, I'll be like, damn, I wish we were playing already. Like, I want this thing to start. But yeah, I'm excited. I know everyone else is. But yeah, I mean, hoping for the best. But yeah, either way, a lot of football left to be played this season. Hopefully we just get out of here healthy. That's the biggest number one priority. But that'll be all from us here, guys, from Dolphins versus the World. Fins up, go Dolphins.